Right, now I know my last 3 videos have been response videos. Now I swear to God this is going to be my last one, but I saw this and I was just like, oh my god, I need to respond to this. It's just so ridiculous. Now, honestly, I've wanted to do a response to this channel for a while, but most of their videos I just really couldn't be bothered to get into and dissect apart. But this one was specifically targeted at socialism. And they're quite a popular channel. What's their name again? Prager University. I'm probably not saying that right, but I think you guys know who I mean. I'll link the video in the description. But we're gonna go through this today. We're gonna pull it apart, and we're just gonna have some fun. Oh, also guys, I'm giving something new a try this video. I loved that Labour Wave music from my last video so much that I've decided to put it in as background music for this one. I'm really sorry if it just turns out to be annoying and you can't really enjoy the video as much. If it does turn out like that, I won't do it again, but you have to try these things to see if they work or not. Hopefully I've put it quiet enough, and if you guys like it, then I'll try and put more of this stuff, or maybe this song again, in future videos. But I figured we'll just test the waters in this one and see what kind of response you guys give.
In the contemporary world, it's taken as a given that capitalism, with its free market and profit motive, is based on selfishness and produces selfishness, while socialism is based on selflessness and produces selflessness.
Alright, so let's interject already. Now, I think the reason that most people consider capitalism to be quite selfish is because it's a very individualistic ideology. Now, I don't really like using the terms individualism or collectivism because honestly it's mostly a false dichotomy used by the bourgeois to make things like socialism look scary. But I think the whole idea of capitalism being selfish mainly stems from the fact that you make profit at all costs and you exploit workers at all costs, and it doesn't matter what happens as long as you make money. And you can go to any lengths to make this money, whether it helps people or not, because capitalism isn't worried about whether what makes profit helps people or what makes profit is actually useful to people. They just care about making profit. Granted, a lot of the time it will align with being useful for people, like a useful product or service, but that's not the main intention, and there are many examples where profit is not useful for people, and I've explained this in previous videos, but I think one of the main examples I can give off the top of my head is the perpetuation of war. Now, this whole idea of socialism being selfless doesn't actually make sense either, though. Both ideologies are very much in class interest. It just so happens for different classes. Capitalism is about the interest of the bourgeois and the employers, while socialism is about the interest of the proletariat and, the working class. However, because the proletariat are the masses while the bourgeois are the minority, we believe that in general it's probably better if we suit the interests of as many people as possible. That's some general straightforward ethics, isn't it? So when you're a socialist, or when there's a socialist revolution, the working class aren't doing it because they just love everybody else and they want to help as many people as possible. Well, that might be a part of it, but mainly the reason they should be doing it at the very least is because it's in their own class interest to overthrow the bourgeois and take control of their workplaces.
Well, the opposite is true. Whatever its intentions, socialism produces far more selfish individuals and a far more selfish society than a free market economy does. And once this widespread selfishness catches on, it is almost impossible to undo it. Here's an illustration. In 2010, the United States President Barack Obama addressed a large audience of college students. At one point in his speech, he announced that young people will now be able to remain on their parents' health insurance plan until age 26. I don't ever recall hearing a louder, more thunderous, or more sustained applause than I did then. Had the president announced that a cure for cancer had been discovered, it is highly doubtful that the applause would have been as loud or as long.
I really don't want to think he's serious when he says that, but I think he is.
But what were they so happy about?
Maybe the fact that now they need to spend less money in order to have good quality of health? That's my guess, at least.
To be told that you can now remain dependent on your parents until age 26 should strike a young person as demeaning, not liberating. Throughout American history, and for that matter, all of Western history, the great goal of young people was to become a mature adult, beginning with being independent of mom and dad.
Well, they're not being forced to. If someone wants to go off and be independent by themselves, by all means they can. But if someone now has the option to get an easier start in life and still get a little bit more help from their parents, then why wouldn't they? Just because the general current accepted view of growing up is being independent and not being dependent on your parents at all and not having any help from them and doing it all by yourself and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, doesn't necessarily make it good. These are just subjective morals for our current society. Again, if we can actually look at proper economic interest, what actually matters, and we can see that in one example, we're better off. Just because your subjective morals don't really align with this, doesn't make it bad.
Socialism and the welfare state destroy this aspiration.
But hold on though, socialism, you can't just lump the socialism and the welfare state together. You are aware that welfare state is very much a tool used by the capitalist state apparatus in order to prevent the working class unemployed from simply rising up and rebelling against their capitalist overlords because they can't eat. Unemployment is very much a necessity for capitalism, because it helps to drive wages down, and without it, wages would ever already go up. Without welfare, the capitalist grip on society would be much less unstable, as you'd have a proletariat who are much more willing to straight take to the streets in order to simply eat. And this may not be in the name of socialism, but simply in the name of, I need food. Of course though, I think it's quite safe to assume that this video is assuming that socialism is whatever the state does. But just in case anyone's unsure, we'll quickly go over the definition again. Socialism is the collective democratic ownership of the means of production by the workers working at any given workplace. It has nothing to do with the state taking control of everything, or different flavors of socialism may have different variants of state control in a economy straight after a revolution for a temporary time. The ultimate goal of pure socialism just has nothing to do with the state.
In various European countries, and now increasingly in the US, it is becoming common for young people to live with their parents well into their 30s and not infrequently beyond. And why not? In the welfare state, taking care of yourself is no longer a virtue. Why? Because the government will take care of you. Therefore, socialism enables, and as a result produces, people whose preoccupations become more and more self-centered. How many benefits will I receive from the government? Will the government pay for my education? Will the government pay for my health care? What is the youngest age at which I can retire? How much paid vacation time can I get? How many days can I call in sick and still get paid? How many weeks of paid paternity or maternity leave am I entitled to? The list gets longer.
But here's something really interesting. You're saying socialism, or the welfare state, produces selfish people. But can I ask, what's wrong with that? Isn't it capitalists that always say that humans are inherently selfish and that's why socialism can't work anyway? But, ignoring that for a second, if we have a society that's able to produce and support people, even if they're going to be selfish through being supported, so what? It doesn't matter, because they may be selfish, but we can still support them, so why wouldn't we? Just because they're not working for it doesn't make it bad by any means. This whole idea of you need to work for everything in life is simply ridiculous. Work for the sake of work should not be our goal. We would only ever work because if we didn't work, we would starve to death. However, we seem to be increasingly living in a society where that's just not a concern for us anymore. A lot of us could probably go without working, and we'd still have the same level of production in goods in most important vital services that we do today. I just don't understand. If you have one situation where you don't have to work and your baseline needs are covered for you because you live in a society which can support people doing that, and another situation where you do have to work and you have the same material and economic conditions, well, how is the latter better than the former in any way? And what's more than this, people like working as it is. People don't like to just sit around all day on their asses doing fuck all, for their entire life. Obviously that's nice as a break now and then, but people very much like to actually contribute to their society, have a purpose in life, do something that they enjoy doing. Most of the time people would say they want to just never work ever again because they're in a shitty job that they've always hated their entire life anyway, but yet are forced to do because they live in a system where if they didn't work, they would simply starve. Well, yet again, when we actually have the capability to support and feed them. And this isn't even just Western countries, I'm applying this to the entire world.
With every election of a liberal or progressive or left-wing party. And then each entitlement becomes a right. But we're not done. There are even more destructive effects of socialism. Entitlements create citizens who lack a character trait that every human should have: gratitude. You cannot be happy if you are not grateful, and you cannot be a good person if you're not grateful.
This definition of happiness and good person seems to be extremely vague. Let's say that you lost your job tomorrow and you were forced to live on welfare. Would you be grateful for that welfare? Would you still then not be a good person because you're not grateful for this welfare? It doesn't really make any sense. And if you have everything that you need in life, yet you're not grateful for this necessarily, you can still very much be happy about this. Oh hey, I need everything I have in life, but my society can produce this for me at no real cost anyway, so I'm not really going to be grateful about it. It's just something that everyone is guaranteed. I'm still happy though, and again, this whole idea of a good person very much falls into your, again, subjective morals on what a good person should be. Someone who works for the sake of working. It's ridiculous. Your idea of a good person isn't even going to be consistent in less than I want to say century, but more likely a decade.
That's why we constantly tell our children, say thank you. But socialism undoes that.
And it's funny you bring up the idea of thank you, and there are actually many languages. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'll probably put it on a text in the video of a source quickly. There are actually languages that simply don't have words for thank you or please. And yet, would you say that anyone who follows this language just isn't a good person because they're not grateful in your eyes?
Yet the left insists that it's capitalism and the free market, not socialism, that produces selfish people. But the truth is that capitalism and the free market produce much less selfish people, teaching people to work hard and take care of themselves and others, and that they should earn what they receive.
I'm sorry, but since when did capitalism teach you to take care of others? Capitalism teaches you to make profits at any cost. This very rarely aligns with helping others for the sake of helping others. The only times you would help others under capitalism is when it's profitable to do so.
Produces less selfish, not more selfish people. Capitalism teaches people to work more. Socialism teaches people to demand more.
And again, what's wrong with being selfish? Everyone is selfish. You yourself would claim that everyone is selfish by human nature whenever asked what's wrong with communism. Yet here you're saying, oh no, we can't have people selfish, we'll have to use this system of capitalism to breed out the selfishness from people.
Which attitude do you think will make a better society?
And once again, you're assuming that working more is inherently good. It's absolutely ridiculous. And again, if you can demand more and society can very much provide for you, why the fuck wouldn't you? It's only when you become a very much inconvenience to society and you're still demanding more that people might turn around and say, alright, just, step back for a second, you can't really have all of this. But that's the whole idea of wealth redistribution for baseline needs anyway. It's only with a resource-abundant communism that we can get to the point where people can essentially take what they want anyway. And if anyone's saying, oh, well then what's to stop me from taking 12 cars at once? Well, let me ask you, why do you need 12 cars at once? There's no market to sell them on, so what the fuck are you going to do with them? Really, that would just seem like an inconvenience to you and a waste of your time for driving 12 cars, each at a time, back from a fucking wherever cars are held.
tea.